And Danny, we need to talk about, we need to do a review on the whole recording thing. We got to come back to that, buddy.
Okay, yes. Yes.
All right, guys, welcome to our Thursday call. My name is Raymond Schulseth, co-host and partner with Debbie Morrow. Thanks for being here today. If you're new, thanks for showing up. We assume you finally clicked on an email we sent you and you're here. So thanks for joining us today. Today, we have a very special guest who's a partner of mine, a friend of mine, and somebody I've watched 10x his personal net worth and what he's been doing over the last couple years. I'd like to introduce my friend RJ. RJ, say hello to everybody and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, pleasure to be here.
All right, RJ, give us a elevator pitch. Who you are, what you do, where you are.
Quick rundown. About 7 years ago, my wife and I discovered real estate. It was small multifamily investing, bought our first house hack 3-unit. From the past 7 years, I started a $1 million construction company. I was a practicing broker for about 4 years, had averaged 2.5 million a year in sales. Scaled the rental portfolio to just under 100 units. I had a short stint as a property manager. And now I'm a capital raiser syndicator, and me and my group have raised over $13 million in the past, I'd say, 5 years.
I love it, RJ. RJ, let's talk a little bit about how you got started. RJ was a guest of mine on my podcast maybe about 3 years ago. That's when we had one of our first conversations anyway. RJ, I've watched you build, but more importantly, I've watched you push through a whole lot of fear. Can you talk a little bit about overcoming fear and
Yes,
like maybe what the catalyst was that allowed you the mindset and the mentality to start building?
one of the most underrated behaviors is the positivity that you wake up with in the morning. I constantly mentor people, and I always ask them, what's the first thing you tell yourself in the morning? Do you get out of bed with a smile on your face? Because these habits are extremely difficult. I'm not going to say I exuded confidence all my life, but the building of confidence started from when I was in elementary school. And that's speaking out, standing up for myself, being confident enough to ask questions. And you don't realize how these small behaviors, as little as waking up in the morning and smiling, first thing, you don't even have to tell yourself anything positive, but you can force yourself to smile, and it will change the trajectory of your entire day. I promise.
All right, so RJ, you're saying smiling just creates all your success? Is that where we're going with this?
Yeah, I actually do want to say it does create a lot of success, because smiling actually releases serotonin, which actually creates positivity and happiness in the body. You can't enter into any conversation if you're not your happy best self. Apart from that, though, the mindset was really about leveraging the networks and making myself vulnerable. So I have a framework that I live by, which, by the way, guys, I was diagnosed with a very rare genetic disease earlier this year. If undiagnosed, untreated, life expectancy is 40 years old. I'm 40 years old. I turned 41 this year. So I went down this deep, dark rabbit hole of all my past failures, of all my successes. And I looked back and I reflected and thought about what really caused my failures and what caused my success. And apart from mindset, it was the ability to show up, be humble, know I'm not the only one, finding my who's, finding my people, understanding life's a process, and persevering through it all. So I actually talk about that a lot when I mentor people, because how many of us were diagnosed with a rare disease with life expectancy the year they find out? Almost nobody. And out of those people that do get diagnosed, how many people are able to persevere and continue to push forward to show up for their family, for themselves, for their partners, for their peers? And I honestly attribute that to the mindset I had built and started building from when I was very young.
RJ, thanks
That's
for sharing that with us. And you know, you're a very humble person, but one of the things that you've built here locally in Chicago with us is the Chicago Multifamily Club. How many members do you have in that?
So on Facebook, we have about 7,500. In total, we have over 10,000.
Can we talk about why you started that and that framework a little bit? Because I do think it's something that everybody can do in their community, especially as an agent and especially if you're an investor.
Sure. When we
Oh.
first started, go.
I was just going to ask you why. Why did you start that?
So when we first started, we were lost, we were confused, just like a lot of you new agents. Sometimes you don't get the great mentorship. Podcasts don't give you all the information. So we're in the right place, right time, and connected with somebody who had success in this space. So we made ourselves vulnerable, and we were humble, and we said, hey, we're newbies, we'd love to learn. So we started getting invited to networking events. And the eventuality is we're at the very first meeting of the Chicago Multifamily Club. And we were asked to be a host. And we said, we don't know the first thing about investing, real estate, being a broker, anything. And they said, it's okay, you'll learn, just show up. And that's what we did. We consistently showed up. We created a enriched community where we got all of our answers. And it wasn't showing up pretending like we knew all the answers. It was showing up and being humble and knowing that we didn't, and asking the right questions at the right time. The second part to that story is 1 year in, 2 years in, 3 years in, we'd have our meetups in January, and there would literally be 5 people there, and 3 of them were hosts. 4 of them actually. My wife, John Kasman, his wife, and me, and one investor. And we'd look around and we'd say, what are we doing? But through that experience, we understood that we were still creating value. So we pushed forward. We started changing our tactics. You know, as Albert Einstein says, the definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So we started to change the format, play around with the marketing, and we found something that stuck. And I promise you guys, the only reason we're able to 10x in the past 3 years is because we leveraged that community, because of all those aspects: being humble, showing up, understanding it's a process, and persevering through that process.
RJ, so far I've learned that you need to smile, you need to show up, and you need to leverage your community. Okay.
Yes.
What else can you share with us about your journey of 10xing what you've built over the last 24 months?
So a lot of people ask me, what's the best behavior I can have? Like, what's the first thing I need to learn? Is it underwriting? Is it markets? Is it demographics? And I say it's different for everyone. My skill sets, the skill sets that I built throughout the years, I don't even think of them as skill sets. I think everybody should have them, but they are absolutely skill sets. And one of the best things that I've been able to do is build rapport with people, be a people person, and have empathy when you speak or when you listen. So it's different for everyone. But as they say, and I hate to be cliche, but the riches are in the niches. And it could either be your skill sets or it could be a specific aspect of the industry. For instance, there's a lot of people here that deal with residential real estate. What's your market in residential? Is it condos? Is it single family? Is it high-end mansions? Is it small multifamily? And who do you vibe with the best? Who's your best clientele? And then after you realize that, who you vibe with the best and what asset classes you really strive at, become the best agent for that asset class and leverage your skill sets, whether it be you're a data person, you understand data, you understand neighborhoods real well, you understand up and coming markets, any of that. It's just find one thing, one or two things, like Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. Find the one thing that's gonna excel everything else in your life today.
RJ, tell us what you've built. What have you been able to build with what you've learned over the last 5 years?
So, well, I'll start that with saying I've been able to understand that I could build things that I don't know anything about. And what I mean is we bought our first multifamily. I knew nothing about it. YouTube University. I spent 7 months with sweat equity in the basement, like dirt on my face, demoing, drywall, everything. You can build anything that you want if you have the mindset for it. So we've been able to build a multifamily portfolio of just shy of 100 units. We are building 5 $3 million single family homes in Chicago, ground up, building a $500,000 home in Florida in West Rotunda, just outside Fort Myers. We are building New Mexico. So I'm actually in New Mexico. I traveled the country in my fifth wheel camper for most of the year. My son's in here. We're building New Mexico's largest indoor cultivation facility for cannabis, for marijuana. I'm connected with a large-scale multi-state operator whose valuation's at $160 million. And I knew nothing about cannabis when I got involved. I know what I know my skill sets, and the wife and I were able to leverage our skill sets to start being involved in a lot of these different operations in the capacity to which we can add value. And apart from that, also, I run EJC Partners. We are a multifamily investor-friendly, full-scale general contracting service, which I've been running for the past 2 years from the road. Again, in my fifth wheel camper.
I love it. Thanks, RJ. Where are you in New Mexico? Debbie just moved there.
Hey, Debbie. So I'm in Albuquerque. I'm staying over at the American RV resort off 40 West.
So I'm sure you went to the balloon festival.
Yes, I did. I have a lot of social media pics around that. It was amazing. It was something I've never seen before.
I
Back
love
to
it.
you, Ray.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, RJ, we'll wrap it up in the next 5 to 10 minutes so we can do a little
Sure.
bit of Q&A and then go into breakout rooms. What are a couple things that you wish you knew when you got started that you know now that would have been very helpful or would have given you maybe a more linear path?
It's realizing that you think more about what people think about you than what people actually think about you. For the longest time, I would move through life worried about what people would think if I acted a certain way, if I did a certain thing. And after I got rid of those fears, it was exponential growth. But I would say another thing is just making yourself vulnerable and making sure you ask the appropriate questions at the appropriate times. And that's early. I mentor hundreds of real estate investors, and they often come to me angry because they're already in a hole. They've been dealing with the situation for 6 months. And by the time they actually reach out, it's too far. Like there's no saving the situation. So whether or not it's somebody in your brokerage, your family, whoever it is, make sure you ask questions early. And the second part to that is make sure you're asking the right people the right questions. When I started real estate investing, my own best friend told me I'd fail. Every single business opportunity I presented to my mom, my parents, or my friends, they didn't give me the support, or they just said, yeah, you could do it. But I didn't realize they were not the right people to be asking those questions. So make
Love it.
sure you're asking the right people the right questions at the right time.
What has become your filter for that? Like, how do you make that decision, or how do you determine it's the right person? Like, what are some things that you may be looking for?
So that actually comes through experience. So like Dale Carnegie says, live in daylight tight containers, meaning don't let your professional life bleed into your work life and vice versa. So being able to segment who in my life I can go to, who in my life is a business professional, who has had the success in the area that I'm seeking questions for, you ask those people first. And if you move forward in life with integrity, honesty, authenticity, I promise you, there's not a single person in your network that, if they can't answer your questions, will at least point you in the right direction. So the last part of that, there's 3 pages of people on this, on the meeting right now. I can't even see everybody. But if you look at the screen, everybody that has their pictures up, Dax, Danny, Renee, Kathy, look at this screen. Regardless of if these people are in your markets, these are people that could absolutely elevate your game. These people can be your partners. These people can be your accountability partners. They can, it's the thing, technology allows us to come together like this, but it's our own capabilities that allow us to utilize it for the power it has. So in the breakout sessions, I really urge you to really find out who you like, who you vibe with, what's your niche, who on this call can help you out. Why don't you guys stay in contact? I'm here in Albuquerque. Debbie, I would love to meet up with you. That would be amazing. When I go back to Chicago, Ray and I are going to meet for the first time. It's those connections that you have to create yourself. Technology only helps a little bit. Everything else is up here.
I love it. Thanks, RJ. The last thing I'll ask is for any agent who doesn't have investments, but wants investments over a period of time, whether it's going from 0 to 100 or 0 to 1 or 0 to 10, what's some of the best advice you could share with them?
The number one question I always ask people that want to scale one by their first is, what's the last networking event you were at? How many networking events are in your market? Do you even know there's networking events? And what's your social media say about you? I had 5 phone calls this week, and they're like, I sell $10 million a year. I have a construction background. You know, they're amazing. They're amazing, amazing people. And I say, but who are you? I don't know who you are. Until you scheduled a phone call on my calendar, I had no clue who you are. And why is that? And a lot of times it's fear of what other people think of them. And they make excuses. Oh, I'm not that person. I'm not that guy. But at what point does building your personal brand, or the lack of, hurt your personal business and your trajectory to success? So you got to think about those things. It's attending networking meetups, building amazing rapport with the people that you meet, asking the right questions, and then building your personal brand. With social media nowadays, that's all we can do.
I love it. Thanks, RJ. Okay, guys, let's open it up to maybe 10 minutes of Q&A, and then we'll do breakout rooms. Just go ahead and put your hand up or unmute and have at it. Who has questions for RJ? Nobody?
I think it was powerful when he said, not the right people, because sometimes I went running this morning, sorry. But sometimes people, we confide in the people that are closest to us and we don't get an amen. You know, it's like, I'm telling you this, you know me, and then they remember that you didn't like, you know, lima beans when you were 4, and they bring that up. So, but I'm in this trap of, you know, that you poo-pooed in your diaper, you know, whatever. But I'm in this trap now that I've really depended on these people. And I'm realizing we don't speak the same language. We don't have the same, when I dream, I'm dreaming really big. And not to say they're the excuse. I'm just coming to terms also that they don't necessarily want the same life that I have, that I want, you know. And what do they say? You're your 5 people around you, you're that. And then sometimes I'm in that group and going, well, I'm counting them as my 5 and I'm questioning them, and they're counting me maybe as their 5, and I'm wondering if I'm delivering, you know. So how do you really break the trance of family and familiarity?
So that is a major milestone for yourself. So pat yourself on the back that you've been able to recognize that pattern. The one thing that I consistently say is, once you find your sphere of influence replaces your social circle, you know you've hit a major milestone. And that's the first step, is being able to recognize that. The second step is you're going to feel lost for quite some time, because it's going to take you some time to really figure out who your people are. And that's the W in showing up, finding your who's. Okay. The best thing for you to do is be authentic and explore your passions. If you're trying to build your real estate business, I'm going to ask you, how many real estate networking events have you been to in person in the last 3 months, 6 months?
Mhm. Well, I do public policy that's tied to real estate. I do any of our NAR events. You know, I make it. I used to go up into the Capitol building. I love that, but they're the same people. But maybe I'm not curious enough. Maybe I'm not vulnerable enough. Like I don't lay down and go, "Hey, these are you my people?" I don't know.
It's about building rapport. The people that you loved and you love to see every time you're there, do they share your passions? If they share your passions and you find yourself having long conversations about what you'd love to do, build, grow, even your personal activities, those are your people. But they also have their own boundaries. Every partner that I've had that I've been able to scale and that I love working with, I've known for 3 to 5 years. And it's very common newbie investor mistakes. You know, I've been hosting Chicago's largest and most active real estate community for the past 7 years. And it's very common that new people will come up and try to partner with everybody. And, you know, how can I add value? What deals can I give you? And I simply say adding value is not making me money. Adding value is coming here and showing me your growth, showing me that you actually want this life. Because I can't tell you how many different people show up to our meetup events and say, I'm going to be the best wholesaler Chicago's ever seen. You're going to know my name everywhere, up and down the streets. And 3 months later, 6 months later, they're working at a coffee shop. You know, they stopped showing up. They, you know, the few times they did show up, they were saying the same things and then they just disappeared. And it's nothing against them, but somewhere along those lines, they gave up. They didn't persevere. I don't mind if you keep saying that and you consistently come and show me growth, but you have to be here and show growth.
I love it. What else, guys? And then we'll hit the breakout rooms. Tiffany, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I had a question. You said you were a builder, and I was wondering what steps should a person take if they wanted to kind of explore that avenue of building single family homes or multi-family units?
Sure. Do you have any experience now with construction or investing properties or anything?
I'm a real estate agent. I've been a real estate agent for 1 year, but I'm also a notary. And I actually, on the side, do permit running for contractors. So I kind of
Nice.
understand that side.
Perfect. Well, so if you do permit running for contractors, that's an entire network of people and connections that you already have in your back pocket. Why don't you utilize those connections to dig a little bit deeper? Hey, EJC Construction, I ran your permits and it's very interesting. I'd love to see the job site. Do you mind if I drop by? And build a relationship small and slowly. Don't overinsert yourself. Find the right partners. Everything is about the emotional intelligence of being able to understand whether or not a person wants to further a relationship with you. you're going to find in your permit running, there are a plethora of contractors that would love to have you walk their job sites, that would love to have you market for them, that spread their word and the good work they're doing, that would love to have you stop by at any time, show your clients some of their job sites so they can gain business. And through that relationship, you'll find a natural path forward, whether it's an immediate, a contractor says, hey, I have a need for a full-time permit runner, or hey, I have a need for a residential broker that will sell all my buildings on the back end. And we love you. You're always here and we know you now. It's those types of things that, and I'll break it down a little bit more because it just makes me realize that a lot of people look at the far goal. You're looking 100 miles out. What we want to look at are the small wins. Did you smile this morning? Did you tell that contractor hi? Did you buy him a coffee? Did you ask him a question today? Did you go deeper than just handing him his permits? Those small wins are what get you to the major milestones. Because oftentimes we just think way too far ahead and we don't even understand. To start reading a book, you have to open up the first page. But everybody thinks, I need to read 300 pages. Well, start with that one page. And that's a huge win. And that will build your confidence and allow you to move forward with more confidence. And once you start doing this a lot more, you'll see how those skill sets transfer into any other aspect of your life, whether it's personal or business, whether it's HVAC or full-scale GC, whether it's residential brokerage or commercial brokerage.
And that's awesome. And that's something that I do need to work on. It's kind of like building those relationships. You know, as a real estate, when I first got into real estate, it was like pulling teeth for information structure, like how to structure the business. That was everything. If I had to navigate that, I had to search for that. I had to like come to this community and get a lot of information to like kind of build that. So I think in myself, I feel like I need to already have it before I go ask questions, before I go look like I'm a newbie
Yeah.
and I don't know anything.
That's a very common mistake. And what that leads to is creating excuses, right? One of the biggest things I hear from investors and my mentees is, when I have X, I'll do Z. And that's not the appropriate way to think about things. You have to think small, start small. They tell me when I have $100,000, I'm gonna buy a building. And it's like, really honestly, how long is it gonna take you to have $100,000? And you're just utilizing that as an excuse. What you said, I wanna pat you on the back for that. I'm gonna give you a clap. Because when I started being a broker, what I did not have a managing broker that supported me in the slightest. Okay, I actually got yelled at because I scheduled an inspection when I should have been in the office answering phones. I don't know, it was real confusing. But what I found is the mentorship was in the least expected places. My home inspector that I built a huge rapport with, Joe Dunford, I love the guy. He taught me so much about construction before I even knew construction. Because he was my home inspector, I vibed with him so well. I didn't use any other home inspector other than him. Joe has helped me build my construction business exponentially. He's gotten me $100,000 plus jobs, and he knows where I started. My attorney, Mark Cervantes, he taught me everything I needed to know about this sales process, because he would be like, RJ, I need these documents. Where are those documents? I'd be like, Mark, I didn't even know I needed those. Can you explain them to me? I told him on the phone, we just closed on a building in Chicago, October 1st. And I told him on the phone, I was like, Mark, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much of a mentor you've been to me. I've learned more about real estate transactions through you than I ever have any other broker. And it's relationships like that. I learned from my attorneys, my brokers, my contractors. One last thing, I know I'm rambling. I started a construction company having zero knowledge. All I knew how to do was create a company and talk to people. Now I know how to build houses from the ground up. Why? Because my subs, the people that I employed, I was on the job site every single day. I treated them like family. I would eat lunch with them. I would be there and ask questions. I'd say, that doesn't look right. Tell me why you're doing that. Now I have 6 years of construction experience in a multi-million-dollar company from knowing nothing, just because the rapport and the relationships I built with the people around me. So, but
Love
pat
it.
yourself on the back, clap for yourself. That's amazing.
I love it. Thanks, RJ. All right, Debbie, you want to
Thank
roll into
you.
breakout rooms? You're muted.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording.